Hello, welcome to Blake's Den. Here's another video on the Westwood T1200. If you haven't seen my previous video, I recommend you go and watch that. In that video I did a winter service and removed the cutting deck. In this video I'm going to attempt to attach a different cutting deck to the Westwood. So why am I doing that? Well, this is the original deck here from the machine, which is from 1988, and it's in poor condition. I've had lots of problems with the blades coming off, so much so I've had to weld the blades back onto it to make it work. But overall it's not that great. This deck here is off a 1983 Westwood Gazelle W11, and this deck cuts really well. But I had a problem with the machine where the engine stopped working and it dropped a valve or lost compression in the engine anyway. So I had a spare deck and a deck which didn't work, so I'm going to try and fit this onto the T1200. There's obvious differences between the two. First one being how it attaches onto the machine. So the W11 just had a single arm off the deck, and that attached to the mechanism which gave the tension to the belt to engage your cutting deck. On the T1200 deck it is twin arms. So I know that's a difference, but I think I can make this work using some threaded bar to go between the rocker mechanism on the machine. So first job I'm going to do is actually just get the W11 deck into place. Get it hung off the deck hanger on the back, get it lined up, get the belt on the engine pulley, and just see if it fits and see if it looks right on the machine and see if it goes. If that does work, then I'm going to try and make the mechanism work to engage and disengage the cutting deck. So first job is get this underneath the mower. So the good news is the deck fits. It doesn't look too bad on the mower. A couple little mods I had to do. Firstly, I had to use some baler twine at the front just to lift up and take the weight. That will be coming off before I test it. At the front I've just used some M8 threaded bar and a couple of nuts on just to centralise the cutting deck, and that still works on the pivot mechanism fine. I was finding that the deck wasn't sitting level, so if we look underneath, I've also added some baler twine from, there's like a steel wire support, and I brought that up and sort of tied it off inside the engine bay. If I come around this side, you can probably see it a bit better. Again, I don't want to leave that on. That was just basically proof of concept to see whether the deck would sit nice and level. I'm actually going to replace that bit of twine with a turnbuckle that I've got left over from another project. I'm going to there we are. I'm going to attach one end around the wire rope. The other end's going to come up through the hole. I'm going to have a large washer behind it, so that'll support the weight of the deck and actually allow me to tune the height of the deck. One thing I wanted was to have the deck as high as possible. I've got quite an uneven garden and quite an uneven route to the garden, so I think that's one of the reasons why the old deck picked up so much damage, was that it was just getting knocked on all rocks and stones or lumps and bumps in the garden. So hopefully this one will be a little bit better. As you can see, I pull the handle back. The belt tension's fine, and then untension's fine as well. I'm happy with that. But this older deck doesn't have the cutting deck brake, so I just need to be careful that once I disengage the deck, just allow the blades to spin down before I try driving over anything too rough. Okay, I'm going to fit that turnbuckle. Once that turnbuckle's fitted, I'm going to take it outside and give it a test. So I've installed that turnbuckle to support the cutting deck. It comes up into the engine bay, and I just put a little link plate in and a little bolt through there, nylock nut on it, M8 it was, just to support it, stop it slipping through. So now that's taken pretty much the weight of the cutting deck. The twine on the front, I've just left that on for now. I don't think it's actually supporting much, but I'm just going to leave it on, probably replace it with a U-bolt. I'm very keen to test this now and see if it works, so I think the best thing to do is to take it outside. I am filming this in January in the UK, and that's not normally a time of year when you'd cut your grass, but I've got a bit of grass I don't mind cutting now, so let's go outside and give it a test. So I tested the deck on the garden and it cut quite well. Unfortunately I didn't capture it on video, but one thing is apparent is that the deck isn't sitting level and that it's moving around too much. So having had a look at the deck support, it just needs replacing. It's completely knackered. I put a couple of Jubilee clips on it last year to actually raise the height of the bar. That's purely because the nuts were so seized. I just could not get it moved. What is quite clear is, as well as being very loose, it's not actually sitting very level to the ground, the cutting deck. So clearance either side is quite different. So around this side, yeah, you know, I can't get my hand under there, so it's sitting lower on this side. So it's actually cutting better on this side than the other side. So the whole deck needs raising up. We do that via that bar. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm just going to cut the bar off, and I've got some new M8 studding. I'm just going to drop that down, cut it to the right length, rehang the bar and re-level the deck. This is the cutter levelling bar removed. I've replaced the studding with some new M8 studding. I've got some new nuts to go on as well. And adjust the height of it by winding those nuts up and down, and they can get level that way. I will put nylock nuts on there just because of the vibration of this. I don't want it coming loose. Short of nylock nuts at the moment, so I'm just going to put it together. I'm just going to double nut it for now, so I have to put another nut below that and then knit those two up together. But essentially I'll use the top nut to do the leveling and then the bottom nut to lock it off. So now this is like this, I'll get it back on the mower and lift the deck up and get it level. So I've got the new leveling bar fitted. Just pulled it outside to get a better view. So that's down there, made out of M8 studding. I've got a couple of nuts on there just to help adjust the height, and another set of nuts to lock it off. The deck seems pretty level. I've got the deck at its high setting at the moment. I've got about 85mm of ground clearance. Obviously that reduces when you lower the deck, so that's at its lowest setting. So it actually sits high still at the front, but I'll probably never really use it on the lowest setting. If I do decide to use it on the low setting, I can just back off the turnbuckle underneath, lower it down. But for me, it seemed to be about right in a middle sort of setting. Seemed to be a good ground clearance, and then I've got the extra ground clearance I need when I put on the high setting. So I'm going to give this a bit of a test on the garden, see how well it does. And yeah, hopefully this will work this time. It's also quite level across the mower as well, which it wasn't before, so it's the same ground clearance either side. And then just a point to note as well, I mentioned earlier about changing those bolts, the studs. It's not actually the bolts which you see there. It's actually a nut hidden behind the chassis rail, sort of a channel which forms the chassis. So, okay, let's go outside and give it a run. So that's after 2 passes, one up, one down on the lawn here, on what is quite thick grass, quite tall grass as well, quite uneven ground. And yeah, and it did it with no problems. As you can see, it's well cut. Plenty of grass there. Seems to cut it fairly well. I'm quite happy with that. So yeah, I think that's a win. So that's the Westwood back in the garage after its first test, which I think was quite successful. The ultimate test is going to be in a few weeks' time when the grass will need its first proper cut, the entire garden. See how that goes. I'll give a further update then. So don't forget to keep watching Blake's Den. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Stay tuned for more videos coming soon.